What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are checking out the Blackstar Series 1 100 EL34 tube amplifier. Let's do it! Alright, hope you guys are doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle. What I do is I take awesome high gain amplifiers, guitars, cabs, speakers, pickups, overdrives. I record them with a simple SM57 setup, and I give you guys the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into East End or thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes that don't have their lighting placed correctly, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Alright guys, so today we are checking out the Blackstar Series 1 100 amplifier. This is the EL34 loaded model because apparently there's a 606 loaded model. There's also another model that is like 200 watts. There's a 50 watt model. There's another model that has 2 rows of controls on the front. And to tell you the truth, I don't really know anything about any of these amps. So consider this more of a demo than a review, as you probably should consider most of my amp videos demos and not reviews, because I just don't really know much about these amps. I am not the most qualified person to speak on Blackstar stuff because I don't have a lot of experience with it. I do have experience with the HT50 Mark II. Wasn't a big fan. I also have experience with the HT100 Mark I. Also wasn't a big fan. And today we have the Series 1 100, and it's okay. You know, I just haven't met a Blackstar amp that really does what I'm looking for. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with them. I'm just letting you know right up front what my personal experiences, my personal opinions, they are opinions and nothing more, have been on Blackstar amplifiers. So with that out of the way, I know that this is kind of like Blackstar's mainstream flagship amp, if you will. I know they have the Stage series, which is kind of like their, you know, entry or intermediate level of tube amps. They have the Series 1, which is kind of like their flagship amp. And then they have the Artisan amps, which seem to be almost like a custom shop type of amp. But again, if I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments, guys, because I would like to hear from you. And you know, if you know more than me, great, I can learn from you. But yeah, with that being said, this thing technically has 2 channels, but each channel has 2 different modes. There's a clean, well, a bright clean and a warm clean apparently, and then there's gain on there. And then over here on the overdrives, you have a crunch and you have a super crunch. That intro clip that I played for you guys was on the crunch channel, which is the channel that I seem to be liking a little bit more for my own personal tastes. And then over here, you have their patented ISF control, which basically changes the voicing from American to British when you go from one direction to the other. Can't remember which is which, so I'm just going to, you know, judge it based on how it sounds. And then over here, we've got the master controls. We've got a volume, a presence, a resonance, and then the power DPR. Don't know what the DPR stands for, so we're gonna say diaper poop rejection. If you guys know what it actually means, let me know down in the comments, please. But essentially, it's kind of like an attenuator. It dials back the power section so you can get similar tones out of the preamp and the power amp, but at a lower volume. So we're gonna just keep that maxed for this video because what we are concerned with is the belligerent amateur thrash and hardcore tones. So that's what we're gonna focus on. For that intro clip, I was playing my Balaguer Typhon with the Seymour Duncan SH6 distortion in the bridge. I had the Friedman Buxom Boost overdrive on in front of the amplifier. So we're gonna turn that off. We are going through a Mesa 412 traditional cab with an SM57 on the V30 as always. I'm gonna go ahead and roll the gain back on this thing, and I'm going to put all of the EQ controls at noon, including that ISF. And yeah, we're gonna see what this amp sounds like. So let's start dialing in some tones. We're not even gonna touch those cleans because cleans are for weak people who like weak music, and that's just not who we are. So we're not interested in that. Let's go ahead and pump that gain up to 11 o'clock. Okay, that's pretty good for a crunchy tone with a, you know, decent amount of saturation. For everything being at noon, the amp is very well balanced. Like, I don't really feel like I need to touch anything for this particular level of gain and for this tone. If I'm going for this tone, everything sounds pretty good at noon here. All right, so it does that mid-gain thing really, really well, and it's nice and balanced, but let's go ahead and push that crunch gain up into about 1 o'clock. Not bad, right? And again, everything sounds nice and balanced. Maybe a little bit more low end. Let's dial that bass and that resonance both up to about 130. All right, so really not bad. It's got a lot of string clarity. The mids are really coming forward. The high end is nice and clear. What happens when we push that gain even more though? All right, that's enough with these mid-gain tones though. This is the gain all the way maxed out on the crunch channel. And brings me to what is basically one of my main complaints with the amp is it doesn't have a lot of gain on tap. This is not a high gain amp by any means. Now granted, we're on the crunch channel, right? So you would think going over to the super crunch would increase the saturation by quite a bit. It really doesn't. It doesn't add that much saturation, which is pretty disappointing to someone like me who I don't even play with as much gain as a lot of you guys do. A lot of you guys tell me to turn the gain up even more on the tones that I get, and it's still not enough for me. And that includes with an overdrive. So the amp just doesn't have a lot of gain on tap, not at all. So what happens when we kick in something like, say, just a standard Boss SD1? Should add a decent amount of gain, right? It's still pretty light. So what you have to do is you really have to boost the front end of the amp really hard with something like the Buxom Boost, which has a lot of output, but can still tighten up the amp to a decent level. So we're gonna do that. All right, so there we go. We've got enough gain, but most overdrives don't have as much level as I'm currently pushing with this Buxom Boost. So keep that in mind. To get this amp into high gain territory, you're gonna need hot pickups and a really strong overdrive, or you're gonna need to stack something like an EQ with a level with an overdrive to get into those higher gain tones. You guys know what I'm getting at as I'm falling apart here. But anyways, yeah, it just doesn't have a lot of gain. Let's try to dial in something with a little bit of a scoopy tone to it. Which kind of brings me to my second point. If you want to get some bite on this amplifier, the highs and the presence, or the treble and the presence, are just placed in weird areas where they don't really sound pleasant when you push them. And when you try to take that blanket off the speakers type of effect going on with the EQ, it tends to push it into a harsh tonal territory. It just doesn't sound all that great. And again, that's not a lot of gain. Even when I'm pushing it really hard with the Buxom Boost, it's still fairly dry. What happens when we crank those mids up? Does that take off some of that blanket effect? It does make it a little bit more aggressive, which means we got to pull those highs back with the treble a little bit. But then it becomes a balancing act, as right now it sounds kind of honky. All right, so another thing is we have next to no bass, so let's crank up the lows and the resonance. It's a pretty decent balanced tone there. That actually doesn't sound bad by any means to my ears, in my opinion. I think it's a pretty good sounding tone, actually. One thing I have not messed with yet though is that ISF or infinite shape filter control, which can really kind of alter the preamp voicing according to Blackstar's literature. So let's go ahead and check that out. I'm going to actually move it from noon. We're gonna move it all the way to the left here, and I'm gonna go through the range and see if I can find something I like a little better with how I have the amp set up now. And try stop touching my strings. So I think I like it more on this right-hand side, but we're gonna need to introduce a little bit more presence to make up for some of the high end that's being rolled off. All right, so overall, that's not a bad tone. It's certainly not my favorite. It's not something I go out of my way to play, but it doesn't sound bad by any means. But again, you have to keep in mind that I'm only able to get that tone because I have this Buxom boost, because if I turn that off and go over to something like the M77, another, you know, kind of basic overdrive, it doesn't have a ton of output. It's gonna be more in line with the SD1 or an Ibanez TS9. It's not gonna have enough juice. That's a pretty significant difference in output, and I guess what you could do is add some gain from the pedal, but then you're introducing clipping from the pedal. I believe that these things have some sort of diode clipping built into them as well. I could be wrong, but they may not gel together very well. So with that being said, let's turn that overdrive off. Let's go over to the Super Crunch channel. I still have the gain maxed out on the gain control because super professional. But anyways, here is the amp with no overdrive in front on the Super Crunch channel. As you can hear, it's a little bit more compressed now. We've got a little bit more gain, and we've also got some more high end, which is a little bit surprising. So I'm gonna turn that presence back just a tad, that treble back just a tad. Certainly a lot more low end on this channel, so that's good. The middle does seem like it's missing some mid frequencies, and we can probably roll back the bass a little bit. I definitely like it on this particular channel with the ISF over on this side. It kind of brings the high end to life and makes it sound not quite as muffled, I guess. Again, on this channel. Let's hear how this sounds with an overdrive kicked in. Let's see if we can kind of fix some of those issues. I don't know if it's the ISF filter. Let's actually change that. Let's put it up to noon and see if that kind of bounces out a little more. It actually just kind of seems to make it worse. We're gonna go up to 3 o'clock here. It's that treble control, man. That thing just kills me. I just don't like how it sounds. So we're gonna dial the ISF back down to about 10 o'clock here. Ooh, and now it's really sharp. Let's pull the treble back out of it. Let's add a little bit more mid. Yeah, I just cannot get a sound out of the Super Crunch that I like. I like the Crunch channel much better, but you have to push it a lot harder to get a better tone out of it. Real quick, let's try the MXR M77 again. I'm gonna roll that gain off a little bit, and let's hear how this one sounds. I'm gonna grab my Fishman Classic loaded guitar over here and let's see how this thing sounds with a different pickup in it, an active pickup. All right guys, so I have my LTD EC400 here again with the Fishman Classic, Fishman Fluence Classic pickups in it. Let's hear how it sounds with this guitar. This guitar is generally a lot brighter, especially in the treble region. I immediately like that better than the other guitar. It's kind of bringing out some better high-end frequencies that make it sound a little bit less muffled. But at the same time, I'm getting some high-end feedback, and I think it's just because there's a lot of high-end going into the front of the amp with these pickups and with that particular overdrive. So let's try that Friedman Buxom boost one more time and see if we can't kind of tame that high-end that's going on there. Not bad at all. Last thing that we're gonna try is the drop C riffs, the only drop C riffs. We're gonna try some drop C riffs. All right, I'm gonna cut that riff short because I'm getting so much noise from this setup that it's just basically unusable. So with that being said, that's gonna do it for me today on the Blackstar S1 100 EL34. What did you guys think about this amp? Do you think I am being harder on it than I should be? Or do you think it actually sounds really good? Do you own one of these? Do you have any experience with it? Am I dialing it in completely wrong? Whatever it is, let me know down in the description, or down in the comments rather, of this video. I'll meet you guys down there to talk about it as always. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you liked the video, hit the like button on the way out as it helps me a lot, and subscribe so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Kyle here again. We'll see you guys next time.
You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.
See you guys next time. Fuckers!
You heard it, folks.